played Atari today.
Hey everyone, Adam with Errata Non Grata, and today's an exciting day. As I think I mentioned before, I had placed an order for Livewire, which has come along as far as, well, I'll get into more about this here soon, but it finally arrived today. The Livewire Archival Project is what it's called, and so since I have it in my hands now, let's take a look at it, or I guess I can just read the back of the I guess you would call this the box. Livewire Archival Project is a collection of all that remains from the incomplete Jaguar game Livewire. For the first time, Jaguar fans can experience what could have been thanks to the assistance of Doug Little, new artwork from William Thorpe, and music from Roald Strauss. And so let's get this figured out, I guess. It's a little hard to do it in front of the camera here. And it's all going out of focus anyways. But yeah, being in the Jaguar community since I think it was about 1996 when I first discovered it, but wasn't able to get my hands on a Jaguar until the year afterwards, if I remember my dates correctly. I don't remember hearing about this one at the time. I mean, I remember hearing about some fake projects like DEF CON 1 and Automaniacs and stuff like that. But this one, the first time I think I remember hearing about it was when Carl Forhan had obtained the code of the game on a flash card, I think it was, but something happened and it was all lost, which is something that can happen with data storage on old devices. By the way, so that you got this postcard with a QR code, which I assume takes you to a reboot site. You got this little cute kangaroo keychain, and there was a black balloon inside of it, which I'm guessing maybe if you inflate it up, it would have a the reboot logo on it or something, but fire up the Jaguar here, and then we'll switch over to a direct capture and go from there. But let me get my settings all figured out first. My TV is lagging on me when I'm pushing the button. Okay. All right. Oh, hey, it has a little light inside. That's nice. Alrighty, so I had actually recorded footage of this with another mic, but then there was either audio level issues or I did a separate one where it just didn't record at all. It recorded the sound from the Jaguar. So just doing this with a separate microphone, but I've already played from the footage you're seeing here. But what the Livewire Archival Project is a collection of demos that are all the existing demos for what still exists for the never released, never completed Livewire project. This first one is a background demo when it mentioned in the text there that it may not work. And so if it doesn't work, it gets stuck on that kind of pink screen. So I had to do a hard reset because there's no warm reset built into these demos with pushing the star and pound. But this is apparently the earliest game demo for Livewire, where the programmer Doug Little was testing out the idea of having a tiled 2D layer and then flat shaded 3D polygons on top of that. And if you push the A, B, or C on this point, it will generate these little particle explosions and such, which is pretty cool. The next demo, which was created on the 28th of April, 1995, so just a little over 30 years and a couple of days ago. It's called Hoth, but it doesn't have anything to do with Hoth from Star Wars, but I'm guessing that's what it's still referring to. But this is essentially a sprite engine demo
And so what you have here is this pre-rendered sprite, which actually looks really cool. I love how fluid the animation is on every sprite that's in the game. You know, even for being not necessarily a polished, completed game, like he was able to get some really nice animations out of the sprites. And then as you can see here, it's something your Sega Genesis couldn't handle with that many sprites on the screen at one time. Although it is a little weird with that, the more sprites you put on the screen, then it starts filling in with that gray and greenish, pukey green garbage there. But you just do that by pushing B. The enemy sprites themselves will just start firing around and all that. Next up is also from the 28th of April, 1995, where it's a particle generator. And I had to film this a few times. There was very first time I tried it, it worked just fine, but then it started having weird issues. But it says so in the text that these may not always work. So this is the effect that you get when pushing B, which is actually really cool. I mean, this looks like, say, something I've seen in more modern games with a particle effect of, say, when a bullet hits the wall, and so I'd say that particular effect is my favorite. But if you push C, you get that other more explosive, more particles flowing out of it. I guess the B one, it has gravity to it, so it looks more realistic. You can do B and C in conjunction. Now if you do A, that's where the background there gets crazy. But it does a lot of effects at once. Now, for some reason, it can't handle both A and B at the same time. It only does A and C. But when you do C, it does seem like it changes the particle effect a little bit. And here is one that, had I been able to get this video out yesterday as I intended to, that was exactly 30 years ago when this demo was created, which was just a flat shaded polygon with no lighting effects on it whatsoever. And so I'm guessing this might have just been Doug testing out his own 3D rendering system. I don't know if he used Atari's. From my understanding, Atari had made their own, and that's what was used in stuff like Club Drive and such. But just again, not really sure what that might have belonged to exactly, but that's all it does. It's not interactive, and without any lighting, I guess it doesn't look super impressive. But next up, this is just regular hard reboot. I didn't edit this down. This would be Hoth-PS is the next one, where it's kind of similar to the earlier Hoth demo, but there's just more going on with it. So you can lay down enemies kind of like mines, but they seem to have more AI added to them, and there's also explosion effects to that. So I guess this would just be polishing that engine. And also notice that there's no longer the solid color filling in from the top of the screen. I assume when that happens, that's something along the lines of something with the object processor. Now, when it goes blue here, that's just when my system had been turned off. It's just capturing directly from the screen, and then it loaded in here. But so now we're getting to the actual demos of Livewire, and these were created. The first one was from May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And then the other two are from August. Now, this all surprised me. Before I got my hands on this, the only thing that I knew about Livewire was a web page that existed out there that explained what the game was, and it talked about how many particle effects it could do, and it talked a little bit about this game engine, and that it was coded on an Atari Falcon. But I had been under the impression from that webpage that it was all done in 1996, and that this sounded like something that just kind of came into being after the Jag had already died. But as we saw from those demo dates earlier, no, this was in active development all throughout 1995, which was the Jag's last chance. This particular demo would, I guess, be the first time that everything came together with the 2 layers of tiles plus the flat shaded polygons. The player ship is different than what it would become, so I'm guessing he was experimenting with it first as far as being sideways, kind of like Defender, I guess, but perhaps just didn't feel that that was impressive enough. As you'll see in the next demo, it will change, but this one doesn't have any collisions. I love the lighting effects on it, and the whole effect of this engine is pretty rad, I would say, or we would have said back in the day. But let's load up the next level. Now, unfortunately, the source code for this was lost. Carl Forehand did get a compact flash with it years ago, and he tried to recover it, but don't know what happened exactly, but it was lost in that recovery. And that's something that's always a risk when it comes to old data storage and things can become corrupted, or in the transfer process something gets lost, or if there's power loss, anything like that. And it's pretty frustrating, but it's like, what can you do? So this looks like what was the first sprite in the game, where it was almost kind of like mating the Starship Enterprise, or like the NX-01 from Star Trek Enterprise, with designs from 1991. 91 had lots of things like this, or like very early CG seemed to have objects that kind of look like that, I guess. But that's not what the final was going to be. I do like the effect of the shots where they seem to appear as a sphere first, and then they condense into a beam. But I don't know if that would have been a separate weapon or something. And just there was showing how you can see the different layers. Now, if you push A, it ejects that sprite, which ended up becoming the player ship sprite later on, as I think we'll see in the next room. But nice effects too, and of course this one also has collisions going at it, but without enemies you can't see all of the glory that it's capable of. So let's see about the next one, and which I think is AGRI, number 7. And so this is where from the demo that from the footage of Livewire that had been posted to the internet years ago, this is much closer to what that is now. This isn't that demo, and in fact I think that the demo that exists on this archival project, like the final demo or the most complete one, still isn't the one that was filmed exactly. That whatever had captured that earlier one had been a slightly more complete version of Livewire. But either way, this still gives you a really good idea of where the game was headed, and what the capabilities of the engine were exactly. Now, of course, there would have been additional polish and things that would have gone into it, maybe making those shadows a little softer, because I think that was just baked into the tile as opposed to being like active lighting and whatnot. And so it's like just with some Photoshop work you could fix that and make it so that it blended in a little more naturally. But before we get to the final Livewire demo, let's check out this one called Test, which was actually dated from 2016. And as this says here, there's no information for the demo itself, but it appears to just be another 3D test. And I would say that this was attempting to try out texturing, because if you look at this object, the texture does seem to warp at certain angles, like right there. But it's almost like the texture data was corrupted or garbled or something, and so it didn't. It's not showing up correctly on the object. But not sure what that might have been for within the game, or why it was so much later, from almost 10 years ago now. Maybe that was when Doug Little was maybe trying to pick it up again or something, I don't know. But yeah, here's Livewire DSP. Date is unknown, but it's the this is what was sent to Atari for evaluation during their negotiations for publishing. And so, at least from what I get to play here, it does seem very much to be, it's good enough to, I think, to have convinced them. It's like, yeah, we should fund this project. But of course, the problem is that, this was probably late 1995, and that's, if it's after the PlayStation came out and Jaguar sales just absolutely collapsed, then that might have been where they, no matter how impressive it was, they might have just been like, sorry, no thanks, but because we don't have any money. But I love the particle effect that he did on the walls there when your shots collide with the walls. They look a little mintery, Jeff Mintery, I could say, as far as how the exact effect comes out. I also love how this engine renders the things with the tiles in the rooms inside the walls there. It almost makes it look like they're textured, even though they're not technically. But it's a very nice and convincing effect. Of course, you saw there a moment ago that you get enough enemies on the screen and it does start to choke the engine and slow it down. I don't remember it slowing down that much in the YouTube videos that have been posted previously. I kind of wonder if, it obviously chokes a little bit when there's the particle effects going on. It's like, I wonder if you might have reduced the amount of particles coming out of the enemies when they die, if that would be more beneficial as far as not choking the engine or anything. And I'm also sure that there would have been other weapons, but this is the only one that you have access to within this particular demo, and it'll be interesting to see what the plans were for the game, like the game design, what was going to be put into it, like would it have had any story elements, would there have been things that you could collect that would open up a text box that would explain the story, and how weapon power-ups would, or how the weapons would work. Would it be a power-up system, which is more arcade-like, or would it have been more console-like, where you get a weapon and then you can use it for however long you want, or if it be limited on ammo or something. It seems like this weapon would be one of the more powerful ones, since you just hold the button down and it sprays. I've kind of wondered about those blue squares, if they would have been like a place for a pick-me-up object, a power-up or whatever, or if they would have been a teleporter within the level. Not sure. Nothing happens when you fly over them, but there are a few of them I've seen around in the different demo levels. I guess the only thing that would have been nice, and maybe this is planned, is that if you go into a room, if it would show an outline of your ship, so you can kind of see where you're going instead of just bouncing around. Now, granted, it's not like, there have been other games that when you go inside something and there's a layer covering you up, like Commander Keen 4 is one where you oftentimes find secrets inside of the level, and the next thing you know, you're just kind of feeling your way through it, bouncing around, kind of like I was doing right there, and with no way to see exactly where you're at. There's one other extra enemy sprite, a mine, it appears, and I think this is getting close to the end of the level, although I think I'd die here in a second, which surprised me. I thought you would just be invincible and have unlimited health, but apparently you do have health in this demo. It's just there's no way to ascertain exactly how much you have. But yeah, overall, I'm really, really glad to everybody involved in this project, Reboot Games and Doug Little. Okay, there's where I died. To providing this. It's so great to get this, even though it's not a complete or fully playable game or polished or anything. It's still great to see what could have been. If you've been a Jaguar fan, like I have been since about 1996, I came in just barely too late. I know, like, Atari needed me a little sooner, but not that one extra person would have really helped them in their dire straits, but still, worth as emotionally invested as some of us Atari fans or Jaguar fans became into the system, it's always been one of those things. It's like, what was the system fully capable of? And I've talked about before how it's pointless to talk about 64-bit this or whatever, and of course that's Atari's fault for making that a big deal. But still, it's just like seeing other things, seeing what it is that the system was capable of. It's like an engine like this was really cool, and it again is too bad that this didn't come out. Now, for this to have had any positive effect on Jaguar sales, I'm not saying at all by this that it would have saved the Jaguar, but it certainly wouldn't have hurt it. Now, granted, maybe with the full game might have been a little boring. I wouldn't be surprised if it would have followed a lot of 90s game tropes, like, say, like Doom, where you're just, every level is just find the key cards, open the unlocked doors, kill the enemies, get to the exit, rinse and repeat, which is a little dull. Of course, finding secrets livens that up and makes it a little more exciting. And that's where I wonder if there might have been any sort of story built into it, or missions and things of that nature to make it a little bit more exciting in the long run. As it is right now, it's more of an arcade shooter, but not quite. Arcades wouldn't let you just kind of lounge around or whatever. This seems to be where the end of the level would be, from that tile object there, right there. But it's like, had this engine come out and had this game come out in, say, 1994, then it probably would have, assuming that it would have been a well-designed game and lots to go on there, then it would have probably been influential. I mean, I've seen people saying, hey, this could be like a Grand Theft Auto type engine. And I remember playing Grand Theft Auto back in the 90s. Granted, that was the last time I played it, the original version, and so I can't remember exactly how it looked. But I think I remember that the polygons were textured, however. But still, this would have been shown that it could have been capable of doing something like that. And you could have done other games too. Like, as I've played this, is like, this would have made a great engine for a new adventure. They probably would have called it Adventure 2000, which would have made a lot of sense, or maybe Adventure 64, I don't know. But had they done Adventure back in the day, an engine like this would have done really well. Or if somebody in the future ends up creating an engine like this, I think that would be great, so that we could get some different games like that. Because you could do Adventure, you could do a Legend of Zelda style game, a Gauntlet style game, or say Bring Back Dark Chambers using this type of engine, a shoot 'em up like this. Of course, that is one criticism I'd have of this, and from the earlier video, it's like I would hope that it would have put in either a weapon that could fire to the sides, or the ability for the ship to also shoot up and down, because it is a little awkward where it's just side to side. Of course, that again could have been rectified with side shots and such, but still is a little like, it kind of sucks when you're coming across like the turrets up ahead and you can only fire forward. There's no way to kill them, and so that's the awkward thing about it. But overall, love the technology behind this. The animations, love the pre-rendered sprites. Maybe that's just nostalgia speaking, but there's just something about pre-rendered sprites that seems to hold up pretty well all these years later. And as I mentioned over and over again, the animations. I like the sprites that he also used for the shots, the enemy shots. Those look really, really nice, because they're not just a single solid color. They've got some color depth to them. But anyways, that's Livewire Archival Project. Thanks again to Reboot Games for getting this out there. If you've tried it, what do you think? If you're just watching it, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll catch you on the next video.